Here's an example of the disappearance of reason from America. So one of the, I think, kind of the popular economists out there who does the best job in explaining simple economic concepts and ideas in a condensed way, in a populist way, one of the best is a guy named Donald Boudreaux at George Mason University. Now, I have a lot of disagreements with Don Boudreaux. I think deep down, or not so deep down, he's probably one of these, what they call anarcho-capitalist, although I think that's a contradiction of terms, so he's an anarchist. But not as much philosophically as economically. Anyway, a lot of things I disagree with him, but when it comes to explaining free market economics in simple terms, he's really, really good. He's really, really good. And he sent a letter. I don't know if this was, he often publishes letters in the Wall Street Journal and other publications. I think he's got and I encourage you to read them because they're good. He takes a short, very few words, and he gets real meat into them. And he's written books about trade, and he's written a lot about trade. He's analyzed trade. He's explained why trade makes sense, even if the Chinese are subsidizing, even if the Chinese are so-called manipulating the currency, even if the Chinese are doing all the evil things that people claim they're doing, trade with them is good. He's done the economic arguments, and he just wrote a letter to President Trump that I think is excellent. Excellent because it has a moral fiber to it, a moral fire to it. It's not economic. It's about morality. And what's interesting is the letter. The letter is really good, and I agree with everything in it. But it's the response I got on Facebook when I posted it, and the instantaneous response, which again shows what a mindless culture we have. So here's the letter. I'm going to read it to you. Attempting to justify that which is economically and ethically unjustifiable, namely the punitive taxes that you impose on Americans who purchase imports from China, you, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, declared yesterday about the Chinese that, quote, if they don't want to trade with us anymore, that would be fine with me, unquote. He goes on in the letter. Who in hell, sir, do you think you are? I love that. What gives you the moral authority to evaluate your personal to elevate your personal preferences over those of millions of Americans who choose to trade with the Chinese? What gives you the right to deny to those fellow citizens the gains from trade that they obviously believe they enjoy as a result of such trading? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Yes, in 2016, you won a nationwide popularity contest. But that victory means neither that your fellow Americans, all 327 million of them, thereby come to share your personal preferences, nor that you've acquired the right to elevate your personal preferences above those of any other individual. All your huffing, puffing, and pontificating about trade reveal that your eye-popping economic ignorance is matched only by your monstrous arrogance in assuming that you and your sidekicks are entitled to override the peaceful commercial choices of others. Sincerely, Don J. Boudreaux, Professor of Economics, George Mason University. Now, that is a good letter. He's right on. And the beauty of the letter is, I think, is that he doesn't argue with economics. In economics, you can't argue. We're beyond that. The economics are being proved that Donald Trump has no clue. And Peter Navarro have no clue of the economics. He's focusing on the ethical argument. He's focusing on the argument that I, as an individual, trade with somebody in China. And it's none of the government's business who I trade with. It's none of the government's business who I trade with. And if I am benefiting from that trade, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't. It's none of your business to step in and interfere. It's so perfect. Who in hell, sir, do you think you are? Perfect. What gives you the moral authority to elevate your personal preferences over those of millions of Americans who choose to trade with the Chinese? What gives you the right to deny to those fellow citizens the gains from trade that they obviously believe they enjoy as a result of such trading? Now that is the moral argument against tariffs. That's it. You don't need to know anything else. Anything else. And yet, I have, I don't know how many hundred, comments on this. By the way, I posted this letter on my Facebook page, and I encourage you to share it. Share it, share it, share it. It's such a good letter. Everybody should read it, and it should inspire, horror in the people who read it, and which it is. So it has close to 200 comments. And the comments are overwhelmingly negative. Overwhelmingly, but we need fair trade. In fair trade, the Chinese are doing this and the Chinese doing that. Everybody misses the moral point. Everybody misses the point of the piece because they can't think in those terms. They can't think in individualistic terms. Their thinking has been completely and utterly collectivized. They can't think. There's 179 comments, of which almost all are negative. But negative in stupid ways. We want fair trade that we haven't had in a generation. The president is right. What? If you want fair trade, if you don't want to buy from China because it's not fair to you, don't buy from China because it's not fair to you. And then people talking about the trade deficit as if they know what they're talking about. As if they have knowledge. It drives me nuts. When people are completely ignorant of economics, who haven't studied economics, who know nothing about economics, but they've heard some pundits on television say something, and maybe they've heard the president of the United States mouth some complete nonsense. With moral confidence assert that trade deficits are bad. I mean, at least know what you don't know. Right? Dear professor, you obviously don't know have a frigging clue about what the hell you're talking about. I can see what's wrong with the educational system. This is one of the best economics teacher in the country. And he doesn't know what he's talking about? How about maybe you don't know what you're talking about? And by the way, in his little signature below, not only does it say professor of economics, yeah, I agree, you shouldn't take that too seriously. But then it says, the Martha Nelson Getcham, whatever, chair for the study of free market capitalism. Free market capitalism. This guy's a free market guy. Again, I have philosophical other disputes with him, but those are not relevant. Truly, truly, truly amazing. The audacity of people, and this, again, I think this is connected to the shooting in the sense of the complete and utter buying into the fear-mongering, buying into the economic and other nonsense, the non-facts, the non-truths, the non-knowledge that they are absorbing from the culture. And they can't deal with just a fantastic individualistic defense of trade with China.
To begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize, I know this is difficult, can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
philosophies. All right. How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference, objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
Use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue. And people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition. And they will want to make you feel guilty of it. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And, wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats, everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized. There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.